welcome back. We're still sticking with our Secret Wars theme. Today we're going to be checking out the Hasbro Marvel Legends Secret Wars 40th Anniversary line here. Well, not all of them. We're going to be checking out half of them. And I bet you're wondering, there's only 6, so how is there half? Well, don't forget about that Doctor Doom and Captain Marvel 2-pack that was also a Secret Wars throwback that came out a little bit earlier than these did. I think it was toward the tail end of last year. But that was also Secret Wars. Unfortunately, it wasn't in the awesome packaging, but we'll be including that in our second part as we focus on the villains. But right now, we're going to focus on the heroes, mirroring our segment earlier in the week where we checked out the original Mattel Secret Wars toys, and we focused on the heroes there as well. Now, with this version of the line, we don't have the standard Spider-Man. We only have the black suit Spider-Man, which is part of the Mattel Secret Wars Wave 2. But we will be including him in this just because there's no alternative. So pretty cool. We're excited about these. They have that really nice mimic you can see over my shoulder of the original vintage package there. I mean, they even have the same basic print. If you watched that video earlier in the week, you'll see that Mattel was not aiming for anything really flashy. They were really trying bare bones it because they didn't want to put a lot of money into the line as an investment in case they lost on it, which they did. So it's a very standard type print on there. It was a universal card back for everything. The containers for the figures were all kind of universal too. It was a little square here, a square here, and then just a half of a mold to hold the figure, and all the figures had the same body type. So they didn't have to worry about a large figure like Hulk or a really tiny figure like a female figure, because they didn't put any characters out and no female characters in that line. So it was very generic across all the figures. So with these, we'll be checking out how they look because they still have their secret shields and they're still in that red round symbol like all the heroes had. But there'll be some differences here in terms of accessories. And there'll be some other differences in terms of, well, you know, it's been 40 years, so the characters have advanced a little bit because of technology. But the back of the card still has that instruction on how to use the secret shield, which is a cool throwback to the original as well. And they are still showing you some of the other characters in the line, well, all the other characters in this line, which was what they did in the original. There were 8, of course, and there were heroes and villains. And they have a little bio blurb on the character. Now, the originals had a comic strip. So these are just more of a bio blurb focusing on the character than they are in a comic strip. I still think it's pretty cool. So we're going to check a look at these guys and compare them to their Mattel original vintage counterparts. So you've seen these already earlier in the week in the Wave. You did not see Black Suit Spider-Man. We were saving him for Wave 2. But you're going to get a little teaser of what that looks like today because we'll have him side by side with his counterpart. So let's crack these open and check them out. All right, we're going to start with Captain America. This is a great comic book Captain America likeness we got here. And he is, you know, this is his full-on Secret Wars look. So I really like that. He's got his smiling head here. He's got his nice stance. He's got his exact outfit. He comes with an alternative grinning head if you wanted to change that as well. And he's got an assortment of hands. So we have some Cap gripping hands here. With for a weapon, we have a Cap pointing hand, so you can have the finger point, and then you have a salute hand on this side, I'll call it, and then another gripping hand over here. Now, the original Cap came with just his secret shield, like this one does here, and you could probably see that change here in the shield. So that was his only weapon. This one has 2 options. It has this peg in the back, so you can stick it in his back here, like he wore his shield originally. Or, if you wanted to wear it, you could rotate this out this way, and then you could clip it onto his arm. So you could have it 2 different ways. So that's kind of a fun little effect that they added to the shield that wasn't original to the Mattel line. But he also has his actual shield here, and it has the same way. It has the peg for the back, or you could rotate the peg around and put it on the arm. So the broken shield, I believe that was issue 11 after the God Doom attacked the group and incinerated them all. You saw the fractured shield at the end there. So this is the first time I think they've had the fractured shield with the comic character. So you have the other pieces here. Of course, they don't connect, so you can't really rebuild the shield, and it's so tattered that I don't think you'd be able to, even if you had all the parts. I don't even think you have all the parts, but you could sort of get this tattered look here but it doesn't exactly fit neatly inside of the shield. But you have all those pieces there. And the only other thing you have here is this Marvel here, a Secret Wars 40th, that if you wanted to, you could put it in here, but it's not, I don't think it's going to have it doesn't have a lenticular image. It doesn't have lines across it, so you can't really do anything with it. It just has the instructions here. So this is just kind of an extra little peg in there just for design purposes. Now, I promised we'll be looking at the originals too. So we have our 1984 Steve Rogers right here. And you can see it's a very similar design with the wings on him and everything, and the star in the back and that A on the head. Like, they have a very similar design here. He didn't have any weapons except for his secret shield, and the secret shield only had that little arm holder in it, so you could kind of clip it on there and use it like his shield, but it wasn't, you know, everyone had the shield. It wasn't designed specifically for Captain America. But this one had the transition of Steve Rogers to Captain America on there. You can see a better video of it on our video from Tuesday. So very similar, except there was a third symbol in there, and it was his shield with the star behind it. So not quite, but kind of close in terms of capturing that look, and I think this works a little bit better. Now you can open those to switch out the image, but there's only one image, so there's nothing else. Originally, these guys came with 4 images. They came with the stock image and the shield on display, and then they had a little roll of 3 additional images you could poke out of the card, and then each of the images were double-sided, so you would get 8 total, whereas this just has the one I checked. There's no back to this one, so if you wanted to open it and check, you can see it's just white. There's no back to it, so you really only have that front image. So these weren't designed to be more swappable like the original ones were. So that is our look there. I think Captain America, that kind of covers our look. We'll just quickly look at the articulation. So you have those hands, and they're going to be able to articulate at the wrist, just like all the other hands there. You have the double elbow. You have the bicep joint that allows you to rotate it there. You have the shoulder socket that gives you every which way here. It's almost like a ball, but it's not quite. For the middle articulation, he has articulation here in the abs, up and down, so you can bend the body. The waist side to side. So that belt is an independent piece. It's not molded onto the Captain America here. You have the upper hip articulation here. You have the upper thigh articulation. You have the double knee. And then you have the ankle. Oh, wait, look, you get calf articulation. Almost missed that. And then you have ankle articulation. So a ton of articulation on this figure to give you a lot of options for posing him and then displaying him. And then you can mix him up, how he has fists, how he has pointing hands so he gives commands, how he has his salute, and then he has his weapon holding hands if you wanted to grip other weapons. So that's our look at the Captain America in the Marvel Legends Secret Wars line. Now we're going to check out the Invincible Iron Man. Very excited to check out Iron Man here. He looks great in his comic look. Those colors are really bright. Really appreciate that. And then we have his secret shield, where you can see the image there of Tony Stark turning into Iron Man. This has a similar hookup with the hole, the peg here, and then the wrist holder. Now, he doesn't have a hole in the back for the peg, so you can't do that. But, I mean, you could put it in one of his weapon holding hands if you so decided to. We'll check out all his accessories here in a minute. He has his gun, and we'll show you why this is awesome in just a second. He has some, I want to say, floating or repulsing hands with little inserts in the middle. We'll check those out in a moment. He has some effects. I want to say that these are blasts, or these are hovering hands, however you want to use them. So these little translucent pieces with pegs at the end of them. He has some roller skates. I don't honestly know what this is. Why does he have roller skates? I don't recall him being on roller skates in the Secret Wars comic. So it's kind of like a go-go gadget skates. I don't understand what those are about there for Iron Man. But yeah, they are included here. He has a weapon holding hand. And then he has these two like flame effects that, or I'm sorry, smoke effects that make it look like he fired a weapon and then his hands are cooling. So that's kind of cool. We'll check that out in just a second. And then that Secret Wars medallion there. So yeah, let's try this weapon holding hand, because I'm eager to see what he looks like holding the weapon he comes with here. And these, I always like to do a twist method here while I'm inserting or pulling these out, just so they don't break at the pegs, because these pegs are the weakest point. The other fun fact here is that this was not Tony Stark in the Secret Wars comic. It was James Rhodes, and they have a whole issue explaining that why he's wearing that armor before he gets sucked into the battle world. So in the original, it even says that in the back of the card. And I think this version, I don't think his helmet comes off, but that would be kind of cool if it did. Maybe the face mask does? No, I don't see any way to take this one off. It kind of looks like there are indentations around it, but I guess not. But in the original comic, this is not Iron Man, this is James Rhodes. So they didn't really write that here with this guy, but I don't think it says it on the comic at all. I thought maybe the helmet would come off and you'd be able to see it, but I guess not. So this is, even though it comes with the Iron Man shield, it's supposed to be James Rhodes. So now we have him with his weapon holding hand here, and we can put his blaster in there. You can even see the holster part on there on the side. If you watched our video on Monday, you know all about that, and we'll show you the original Iron Man in just a second. Why don't we show now, because we're going to play around with the other accessories. So the original shield also had Iron Man turning into Tony Stark instead of James Rhodes, so it was very confusing. But here is our 1984 Mattel Secret Wars Iron Man, and here is that blaster. So you can see exactly what I'm talking about. It has that little holster part on the side here. It has the double barrel on the front, and this was given to Iron Man, it was given to Magneto, it was given to Kang, it was given to all sorts of villains. Doctor Doom and more had this. This was like the universal weapon, essentially, this blaster. So it's kind of cool that they added it to him, because this was his weapon, essentially, the only accessory he came with in addition to his shield. So I like how they brought that back. They kept the colors very similar. I really like that. The design very similar, with the little lines on the feet and the hands, and then they went with blue for the repulsor instead of yellow. So they kind of expanded the color palette. So that was our original Invincible Iron Man, and now we have our new Invincible Iron Man here. So the only other effect that we want to check out are these repulsor hands. So we want to add these on here to give him his little repulsor ability. And I think this is one of the cooler designs for the character. This comic look is just really fun. These bright, clear colors here. So you could add these little effects in here and make it look like he's firing his little repulsor beams. And that's pretty cool there, just like that. Or you could have an after look that he fired it and now it's all cooling down out of his hand after the beams are fired. So you could have either look there. I think is really nice. So just a lot you could do with the character. I think it's really neat. Like this one in the line, I mean, he was kind of essential. He's one of the core heroes and one of the core toys that were designed. And the only other effect here, like I said, is these roller blades go on the foot and these pegs, I'm assuming, and they kind of fit perfectly on the shoe and or the shoe and the boot. They match up just perfectly on there. So yeah, I'm not sure why he has the rollerblades or skates, but he does. So if you wanted an Iron Man on skates, you can have that ability with this figure. So it was an odd choice, but there is your Invincible Iron Man in the Marvel Legends Secret Wars line. Now let's move on to our other two characters. All right, everyone's favorite mutant Wolverine enters the line now. He was an easy inclusion for Mattel back in the day to make this part of the line. He was very popular in the X-Men series, and he's just a fun character. I mean, I love the design of this figure. They have hair on his arms here. He has this throwback suit. If you wanted to, the alternative head they have for him is without the cowl on, so you could have that look as well. I mean, I think he just looks great. I mean, you can even see this extra articulation point here in the back where the arms could sort of just move back and forth here like that. So they added that additional point of articulation on Wolverine here. So I think that's really cool. The belt is down there as a separate piece. The boots are sticking out here. I mean, really nice job in general. And then we get two options for displaying him. So we have his claws in here. And then we have his only accessory are his claw hands. So these are separate hands, which you would have to attach or detach the originals and switch them out. So this is the option you have. And I bet you're wondering, like, hey, I like to just bring my hands in and out with a spring mechanism or something. Well, I mean, they wouldn't be as stable or look as cool, but you could get the claw hands this way. And I think that's really cool. So we have the original, or I'm sorry, we have his shield here, which is Wolverine with the claws, you know, opening and closing here as he has his cowl on, and that his secret shield. So looking at the original, and if you bet you're wondering about this hand design, the Mattel version actually had the claws would snap on and off. So you just kind of attach the claws this way, and that's how he got his claws. So they did a kind of a nice homage by having them as separate parts that you added onto the figure. So they definitely brought that back. Otherwise, they kept the design very similar to the original Wolverine, which I liked, which was this comic look. So it's comic accurate look. The original shield, I think, is default, and you can see it better in our video. He had it going between Logan and the claws, but this was actually one of the inserts where he's on there like this with the claws going up and down, but it wasn't the default insert. So they took a little bit of artistic liberty, but it was one of the ones, and you can see that in our video. It's one of the additional inserts they give you for the character, but it wasn't the standard fare there. So they changed that up a little bit. This is the only one that didn't sort of stick with the original so far. And then we have the, of course, that rotating ability to put it as a secret shield or have the additional attachment there. But again, there's no peg on him. So I think they just kind of kept that generic through all the shields since they already manufactured it for Captain America. And that was, and again, a nice homage because Mattel kind of kept everything similar through all the characters. So that is your Wolverine. And then, as I said, he had standard gray, and then he also had black claws was the variant. So this one just has his actual silver looking claws. So a nice kind of throwback when they gave you the different hands, kind of throws back to the Mattel here where you had to attach the claws instead of having the claws inside the character. But other than that, I think they did a great job with this Wolverine. I really like how he came out, that smirk on the face. Everything looks really good there. The boots, they did a nice job with the boots. You can see ridges on the bottom there. And he just has that great classic look, and then that hair on the arm. And yeah, he's just really, really solid. Let me see if he's any shorter than the other character. He is a little shorter. Look at that. So they want comic accurate height there as well, where he's a little bit shorter than the other figures. So they did a great job with this Wolverine, and that additional articulation here with the chest, where you could really get these claws around if you wanted to. Let's see if we can do that. Yep, we're going to push him forward. I'm going to get that claw up here. I'm going to push this one forward, and then we're going to get that claw up here, and then we could cross our claws. So yeah, you could really get that nice comic look where he does the claw cross stuff to say, and then you could open it back up. So that is a nice additional articulation point that they added into this Wolverine, and I think you'll appreciate that for display, and I think he just looks great. So that is our Wolverine. And now we're going to end with our amazing Spider-Man here, and he also has that same articulation joint in the back that they added to this figure. So kind of fun how we broke this up in this segment into these four figures like this, because the articulation is similar with these last two. So this Spider-Man, of course, is based on issue number 8 of Secret Wars, where he had a costume change. Accidentally using the wrong machine, he chose the one with the symbiote instead of the one with just the different costume that would go on. So he ended up like this. He comes with his secret shield here, and it's, what is this, Peter Parker to black suit Spider-Man, if you can see that there in the change effect. And that is very similar to the original one, and I'll show you that in just a minute. Ton of articulation on this guy, but same articulation as we see on everyone else. He's very lean body for his black suit with his head here. He does come with an alternative head, then eyes are just a little bit more narrow. Otherwise, it's very similar in look to this head right here. I'm trying to get his ankle to articulate a little bit because it is not. There we go. It is not allowing me to display this figure. Okay, so we have the figure here, and he comes standard with his punching hands, and he also comes with alternative hands that you can put onto the character. And he has his, I want to say these are the thwip hands, where they have that little look on there. So he's got his two thwip hands, and then he's got what I think are kind of important for this figure are the open hands. So I call them jazz hands. Jazz hands here, and I'll show you why in a moment. We'll try those out on here, and they're easy to switch around, as you can see, which we always like seeing hands that we don't think are going to break very easily. So he could do his jazz hands, and I can't exactly get it, but you think back to the cover on issue 8 of Secret Wars, and he had the big jazz hands as he's posing in his new costume. So here we go. You can see it front and back, and that is sort of his look that he could do as he poses in his new costume. I don't know if they knew at the time that this would become Venom initially after the symbiote separated from him, but it was a fun costume at the time. Mattel loved it. It allowed them to sell 2 versions of the same character, which is the new paint job. So it was in a line that tried to like minimally tool things. It was excellent. Here is our original 1984. I think it was 84 or 85 when this came out. This is wave 2. Maybe it was 85. Spider-Man black suit. He has a angled foot here. It's not exactly flat, so it's always tricky to find a nice little center of gravity to balance this figure. But very similar, and you can see in design, he's got that spider on both sides there. The black look. This one came default with fists as well, and then he had his secret shield. And you'll see it better in our video, but it's Peter Parker turning into the black suit Spider-Man along with that little like spider sense on there. So very similar to this. So they did a decent job on that one, keeping it similar to the original look. And you could pose him with his jazz hands. So I love that too. But different figure in the line. I mean, it's the same body as the Spider-Man figure. You'll see it when we have it side by side when we do this in a future video. But yeah, I mean, they really mimic that. But this was wave 2, not wave 1. So we could have got a Spider-Man figure and then a black suit Spider-Man figure. Hasbro could have double dipped there. That would have been awesome, because we would have got both Spider-Man in the line. But that is your Spider-Man there, and he's got that additional articulation. Not like the super articulated one that was just announced, but he's got a ton of articulation still. So you should be able to get a lot of poses out of this. You should be able to bend his legs all sorts of ways to contort him. But that was his thing, superposable and just amazing. So he's got a bunch of little hands. It would have been nice if they had some web effects for this character. That would have just really taken it to the next level. But the original didn't have anything either. It was just the secret shield and the figure. So much like most of these characters, with the exception of Iron Man and Wolverine, the heroes in Wave 1 didn't have any accessories. It was just the shields, basically. So, and even then, the accessories were, you know, a blaster that came with every figure, which made no sense for Iron Man because they didn't use a gun. And then just the clip-on claws, which you really needed. Without those, I don't think that figure would have really been great at all. So that is your look at Spider-Man and Wolverine in this second part of the line. And that kind of concludes everything here. We'll have our Captain America and then our Iron Man as well. So that is your look at the heroes, I want to call it, of Wave 1. Hopefully there's future waves of this Secret Wars 40th line with these card backs. They're awesome. But it almost had all the heroes from Wave 1. The only exception was this would have been standard suit Spider-Man, but it really mimicked the original wave, and I think it was a nice launch point. We don't always do Marvel Legends reviews here, but when we do, they're amazing. I mean, this wave was short of perfection, honestly. It had a great homage to the original Mattel figures. We kept some of those design elements like Wolverine's swappable hands. We kept Iron Man's little universal weapon that came with all the figures there. And then we expanded on it, giving Captain America his own shield instead of the secret shield with the ability to clip it on the back. The Iron Man with his repulsor effects and rollerblades or skates. I honestly don't know why. And then the additional posability of Spider-Man and Wolverine there. I think they just did a great job here, and I really hope they continue this line. Next time we're going to look at the other figures, the Titania and Beyonder. as well as that 2-pack of Doctor Doom and Captain Marvel, and that was the Secret Wars 2-pack 40th anniversary. So that'll round out everything. The only one in that actually had a counterpart back to the Mattel line was Doctor Doom, so we'll have to compare that there, because Mattel didn't do any girl figures, so we won't see any of those there. And Beyonder was a weird inclusion, and we'll get to that, because he wasn't in human form until Secret Wars 2. So it was kind of, that was Ferris Beyonder's day off, was essentially the entirety of Secret Wars. It wasn't even, of 2, it wasn't even really a war. It was just a Beyonder learning about living in a human perspective. So it was weird. I still think it was better than Secret Wars 3, but anyway. So we'll look at those next time. And of course, we're going to have more looks at Secret Wars all the way through April, looking back at our vintage line of Mattel figures. So we'll be wrapping up Wave 1 next week with villains, and then we got Wave 2. We're going to split that into 2 parts. Then we have the ground vehicles, and then we have the play sets, and then we'll have some surprises, and maybe in the future we'll have more stuff. We don't know. But that's all we have planned for right now. So we'll be checking all that out. Of course, we just wrapped up a whole Marvel Superheroes line from Toy Biz. If you want to check out the vintage 90s, early 90s collection, we covered every single thing in that entire product line. So you can check out that 7-part series we did if you love vintage Marvel toys. But you know, the Marvel Secret Wars was the first time Marvel had action figures. Nothing existed before 1984 other than the Mego dolls and the Mark's little plastic figurines. They didn't articulate or do anything. There was little plastic toys. That was it. There were no action figures until 1984 when Mattel picked up the license and tried to mimic Kenner's success with the DC Superheroes line. It was not successful. Spoiler. But future iterations were, but it was still a really awesome line. As you can see here, people really love it. And it was one of the greatest comic book crossovers of all time. So yeah, definitely worth bringing this back. So that is all for this time. Come back for more content. As always, like, subscribe, and follow. See you guys next time.